good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the LMGT3 Challenge, powered by Driven Minds and brought to you by Driveline Media. My name is Max Ring. We are here at the fabled Texas circuit in the Lone Star State of Circuit of the Americas. And I'm here without Joseph for once. I'm here with the legendary Ben Sapsford, who you may know here in the GRDC from other events on the LMU. So hello, Ben. How are you on this Monday evening?
Sunburnt. No, I'm doing brilliant. Thanks for having me, mate. Jumping in for Joseph as he couldn't make it tonight, sadly. So I'll be on the back line on the production. But it's good to be here. A little bit flushed in the face. I was very lucky to go to Silverstone this past weekend for Formula Student. But otherwise, looking forward to getting back into it and seeing what we have to offer. What have we got to offer here, Max?
Well, we got frantic action of two 5-minute qualifyings followed by two 30-minute races. We split into their separate lobbies, and we have a very interesting race here at the COTA circuit. It's also not your normal COTA circuit. We are cutting half the circuit off. We're cutting the tip of the sword away, and we are doing the national layout. So we got a little extra chicane after the S's. Instead of going all the way around to the right, we dive to the left. And then we will be on to the back straight after a little chicane. Practice is nearly coming to an end. Zoltan Varkonyi, after last week's outing in Fuji, your championship leader, is going to be back for blood. We saw how well he did with no ballast out in Imola. Can he repeat that feat here this evening? Talking about ballast, here is your ballast standings. Robert Pure is on 40 kg. He had the most points last time out, but he isn't actually the heaviest car. I'll get to that very, very shortly. It's Hendrik de Vries with 37 kilos, Jordan 40 with 25, then it's Alistair Ramsey with 41 kilos. He may have only had 16 for finishing in 4th overall, but he's been in that top 5 times in a row now, so he's got an extra 5 kilos for each one of those, so he's up to 41 kilos on that car. And then it's Daniel Christo on 13 kilos. We should be in for some interesting action tonight. So far from what it looks from practice here, Ben, from what we are seeing, it's looking like Aston Martin domination once more, with the likes of Pure and Osborne with that outside threat.
Oh, they got quite a roster of talent out here on the track at the Circuit of the Americas. Now, one thing to be mindful of is it's not the full circuit layout. You do chop off the end of it. It's the smaller layout for tonight. So we will see a little bit tighter lap times, and I think a little bit tighter racing. I think that this format of the circuit speaks a little bit better to these LMGT3 cars. And those LMGT3 cars, which we are going to be seeing right now as practice has ended and Hyperpole style qualifying for race 1 is now about to get underway.
Yes, it certainly is. And the drivers will now have 5 minutes of the circuit to themselves to cement a good enough lap time and a bid for pole position. We'll have probably 2 to 3 attempts from some of these drivers, but most of them do elect to go for the former, if not just the one shot to keep those tyres in a good condition for the race. So as the drivers now head out onto the circuit to maximise the amount of track time they can possibly have, I think we should go on board with Zoltan Varkonyi. The windscreen wiper is on that Aston Martin. I think there is actually a few spots of rain just in the air going on board with Varkonyi. So a little bit of a greasy circuit to deal with here, Ben. That could add that little bit of a challenge. And when you're in the attrition and the moment of qualifying with a bunch of adrenaline thrown through your system, a lot of pressure to get a one-and-done lap in, it can maybe cause those mistakes to come out, especially if the circuit's just a little bit greasy.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit wobbly out here, at least initially. I think a lot of the drivers are just trying to get the feelers out because this is quite a technical circuit, and especially with that back straight being chopped right down, you're really going to have to rely a lot on your aero package, on your suspension playing ball. In particular, when you have that first sector of the course, you're constantly ducking, weaving left and right. So your car needs to be responsive when it changes angle, but not too much so that the rear step out too far.
certainly does. You need to make sure that the car is going to be planted also with a good amount of rotation as well. So Varkonyi starts his lap as he now heads up into turn 1, braking just around about that 100-meter board. Get it turned in. You can see it takes a few stabs at the cherry, just maybe getting it up to speed with the track conditions and also with the car, just getting those tyres up to temperature as well. Of course, we'll be getting more and more temperature as the laps tick by. Of course, for Konyi, your championship leader, has won so many races. That's a huge moment through the S section there. Lucky to keep a hold of that car full on sideways to the circuit, and was lucky just to hang on to that one. Lucky as well that the circuit flowed with him, braking them once again around about the 100-meter board once more as you head into the next left-hander. Back on the throttle, you bring the car all the way back over to the left-hand side before bringing it in to the right. And then this is a very tricky traction zone. Slowly got to bring that power back up as you then hit on the brakes once more. Of course, for Konyi, looking for another pole position so far this season. Qualifying's not been his strong suit really compared to his races. He certainly has better race pace as we now head through the triple right-hander. Completely off the throttle. Bring the throttle back on. Then slowly feather it through the corner. Don't understeer too far wide as you head into the penultimate corner of the circuit. Now down to second gear. Just a little bit twitchy once more. That car not looking too happy at the moment in the hands of Zoltan Varkonyi. Maybe that's why we saw him a little bit slower in practice than usual. So up to the line now for Varkonyi. This is going to be the benchmark time from the Hungarian. It's going to be a one and done attempt of 33.5. Can anyone come close to it?
We'll see lots of times rolling through now. We've got 33s to 35s, say first 5 on the board officially now. It's going to be Borgerson with a 35.1 at the bottom end and Zoltan Varkonyi with a 33.5. We're going to see more and more of those times rolling their way through as we speak. As the key thing here is going to be getting a solid initial. It's worth noting, we do have a lot of spots on the track that are no-shows. So we have 7 drivers that are set to be in the pits, but they will be off the board for the second race. So if you see a disproportionate amount of cars in the pits, that's fine. We are aware, and they won't be on the list for race 2. But initial timings on the board. In fact, let's get that timing page up just quickly for everyone here. So we have got intact Tom Osborne setting the timing field alight. 33.2, fastest on your boards right here. 33.403 with Hendrik de Vries. Both of them are going to chop ahead of Zoltan Varkonyi and put a bit of a fight to him in this round here at COTA. And you can see the likes of Paul, Ramsey, Biddle, Christo, Jalise, Fordham and Borgerson completing your top 10. Last couple of cars making their way through, as I think that some of them managed to just about squeeze a second run in.
Yes, they certainly did. One of them being Robert Pure, who's now on his lap. He's been so strong ever since taking over that Lexus. Has not really looked back at that McLaren since. He was only with a best finish of 3rd when he was in that McLaren. Now here in the Lexus, he is up into race-winning contention constantly. Alistair Ramsey moves himself up into 3rd place. What can Robert Pure do? He goes, he slots in front of Ramsey actually and goes into 3rd. Osborne, of course, in that BMW, still at the top. Will be wanting revenge for what happened in Fiji. Of course, that's it for Pure, for Ramsey, for Varkonyi, for Biddle, for Jalise. What about Christo as he makes his way to the line? The Aston Martin driver, can he find an improvement on his position? No, he cannot. What about Tom Osborne? He's now heading into the penultimate corner. Can he extend his grip on that pole position? Can he extend that grasp and push himself further away from the rest of the field and give him a brilliant chance coming into the race? A little bit wide through the final corner, though. That's not going to do him a world of good at all. De Vries wasn't able to improve on his lap time. Osborne to the line wasn't able to improve either. So for Tom Osborne, he stays on provisional pole and keeps that pole position. I don't see anybody else going quicker on the road. So it's BMW brilliance once again from the Brits. Tom Osborne takes pole position once more, and after that pole position got brutally taken away from him on that opening lap in Fiji from Zoltan Varkonyi into turn 1. He'll certainly want some revenge here in Texas, and what a way to bounce back from that.
What a bounce back. And that puts us in good stead for the session that's about to take place. Let's go through our starting order. It's Tom Osborne alongside Hendrik de Vries, both in the custom liveries. hence their number 397. They are in row 1. Row 2 is going to be Robert Poor and Alistair Ramsey in 3rd and 4th position, with Zoltan Varkonyi and Jordan Biddle both in Astons going to take up row 3. 7th and 8th goes to Brian Jalise and Daniel Christo. Let me tell you, the Aston seems to be a seriously popular pick, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. The two BMWs, though, claiming row 5, it's going to be Franklin Stijink and Matt Fordham completes our top 10. Then Borgerson in the Ferrari, with Dan Wilson in position 12, another Aston to the boards. Chris Willems is in the McLaren alongside the Lexus of Paul Garnham in 13th and 14th. Then it's Mark Cooley along with Jordan Forte in 15th and 16th position. Then you have Gary Barham in P17 in the number 78 Lexus, and Nikita Kachan in that beautiful Aston. A lot of custom liveries. Unfortunately, they don't show up on the starting order. Casablanca and Borchardt completing our top 20 with Gianni Manca and Louis Knight in 21st and 22nd. And then it's Michael Donnelly and Mark Kerner in the 31 and 397 cars to finish off. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to see the custom liveries in the thumbnails on our starting grid, but that being said, the cars are looking striking out there and they're about to get underway.
Yes, they certainly do. There are some nice ones indeed. You can see the likes of Hendrik de Vries in that Red Bull Racing Aston Martin. You can see Tom Osborne's ADR up also for BMW. So many a different livery. Some drivers running different variations of the same livery on their cars. But 30 minutes of frantic action will begin very shortly. Just like we've seen so far for the past few rounds, it's Osborne and Pure, the only drivers to be able to get close enough to the Aston Martins to have any threat at winning these races. So as we make our way to the green flag, it is Tom Osborne who will lead us away, but Hendrik de Vries, who we know from the front row can be very aggressive indeed and can certainly take his chances if he can get onto them. But the question is, does he have the clinicality at the end of the race? But we do go green here in Texas. It's a brilliant start from Tom Osborne. De Vries a little bit sluggish off the line, and that's not allowing only Robert Pure but also Zoltan Varkonyi to make a move into turn 1. It's Hungarian to the outside. Osborne leads the way, and then look at Varkonyi round the outside, sweeping past not only Ramsey but Robert Pure as well. He's now all over the back of Hendrik de Vries as we head into the S section. Ramsey past Pure as well. He's lost 2 places in the opening corner of this affair here in Texas for race 1. And now as we head through the S section, Pure was able to fight back there against Ramsey. He's back up into that 4th place, and then further back it's everybody single file for now, just trying to make their way through the opening lap chaos as we head down into the next left-hander who is going to come out on top in their individual scrubbles. But it's Tom Osborne who leads the way from Hendrik de Vries. A frantic opening few corners, and for the BMW, he timed that launch perfectly and he couldn't have asked for a better start.
Really good start there out with the gates, and it looks like everyone else is just trying to find their own spots. We do see Dan Wilson dropping down and having an issue going into that final sector here, so a bit of a struggle for him, but he'll hopefully be able to get back on his feet. And with 2 races here at LMGT3 Challenge, it does give a little bit of a chance to have a resurgence in the second half of the evening, but it's not a strong start for him. It's looking at around the rest of the fields that have started to space out, and a lot of drivers just want to get the miles in before they start going for some crazier moves. Although saying that, just behind we see, I believe that is 40 going on the back of Garnham, trying to tee up a move into the final corner.
Yeah, he certainly was there. Wasn't able to get it done, but now with that slipstream heading up the hill into turn 1, we know that Aston Martin incredibly fast down the straight line compared to the Lexus. He gets onto the brakes. Is he going to be able to pull this move off? Of course, 14 really out of position to where he should be, but Garnham holds on for now. Brilliant defense from Paul Garnham in the Lexus to hold on to that one at the front of the field. Osborne still has broke that 1 second barrier to Hendrik de Vries, but will 40 be able to get past Paul Garnham, who's had a slide and he's off. Paul Garnham, after that brilliant defense into turn 1, it's all been unravelled a few corners later. He spins round, he's in the wall, and unfortunately that'll be any chance of a good result you would think done in this opening race unless sheer pandemonium happens in front of him. But for Gary Barnum, it's unfortunately a big spin which has had severe consequences for his race indeed. And Jordan 40 will be counting his lucky stars. He didn't try and move into the S section if that happened while they were side by side. Is anybody else close enough for any attacking moves throughout the field? It doesn't seem so thus far. Closest driver really is Vakonyi to the back of Hendrik de Vries. Of course, the Hungarian looking to return to the top spot. Whenever he has failed to get a race victory, the next race after, he has been able to get it straight back to the top step of the podium. Once that ballast gets removed, he is a demon in that Aston Martin. And he'll be certainly wanting to prove that this evening. But it's Osborne that leads the way from de Vries and Vakonyi. And these three could be in a very heated scrap within the next few laps.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see them all squabbling by the time we get to the halfway mark. We've already seen Vakonyi is not afraid to get right up close and personal with the track space that's available, and especially when you get to these twistier sections, he's preying on a mistake that could potentially be made by de Vries. And oh, there's Osborne! Osborne's lost the rear through the sector, and he's completely tailed it off. Hopefully he can make a quick recovery. It looks like he's going to be able to get right back onto the track as soon as he can. He's going to slot in right next to Stijink and Borgerson in tow. He's going to have to take off to the side as he is still running slower. He's going to have dirty tyres. He's going to have to take a second to recompose rather than get to fighting straight away. But Borgerson and Stijink going side by side as they come out of that smaller back straight. It's a big squabble in this mid-pack right here as the leader has joined the fray and turned this mini microcosm of the circuit into a war zone.
He certainly has, and that's a big mistake with sheer consequences for Tom Osborne, who was leading quite comfortably, even though it was under a second. We didn't have too much pressure on de Vries behind, but we've seen it so much so far in these opening few stages of this race and in qualifying as well. Those bumps in the S section, if you hit it just wrong, you will see your car spinning off the circuit and into the barriers potentially. This has now really brought that scrap at the front of the field down to Vakonyi versus de Vries. These two have had plenty of battles so far this season, most notably at Imola, where de Vries, under pressure for Vakonyi, did what Tom Osborne did at the Tamburello chicane here at Imola, there at Imola, and unfortunately crumbled under that pressure. And that has been the story of de Vries this season. Once that pressure gets on, and a big slide for the Dutchman. Once that pressure gets onto the back of him, he does seem to make those mistakes. He doesn't have that clinicalness to his driving to get it to the end. And unfortunately, once those cracks start to form, they get bigger and bigger until everything starts to collapse around him. But if de Vries and Vakonyi do now get into a scrap, this could invite Robert Pure to the fray as well, of course. With next week's race, we could see a completely different story, knowing that LMU is going to be coming out to a full release. The 1.0 update is tomorrow, and that brings in a new car, a Mercedes AMG GT3, and also the new tyre model to do with the tyre temperatures. So things can drastically change in this championship. Cars that could be quick now, like the Aston Martin, could falter into that mid-pack. And that's something the drivers need to be wary of, isn't it, Ben? That potentially the cars they're in now may be a completely different beast next week.
Well, the new tyre model should help at least with some of the thermal issues that drivers have been experiencing, some of the peakiness when it comes to retaining temperature, gaining temperature. Hopefully it mellows things a little bit out to make it a little bit more consistent across a variety of conditions. That and when you combine that with, especially the BMW drivers, because one of the new cars to come is the M4 LMGT3 Evo. Not too dissimilar, slightly revised bodywork, but I'm not sure if we will be seeing, or whether it will be within the rules when 1.0 comes out, whether drivers of the BMW will be swapping to the Evo version or not. Not a massive change in car, but that combined with the new tyre model should make the car a little bit easier to drive, a little bit more stable. But that goes for all cars across the field, and I'm curious to see how it affects Aston Martin, because the Aston seems to be such a popular pick across the entire field.
It really is. Oh, that's Stegging with a slide there after battling there with Tom Osborne, of course, who led the early stages of this race. Franklin Stegging with a big slide out of the left-hander, and that's now put Osborne under all sorts of pressure here from Jordan 40 as the BMW now having to defend from the Aston Martin. It seems that Aston Martin is such a big pick for a lot of these drivers here. not only because it's very fast and also very nimble, but it can just keep its tyres in good shape. I say that. That's 40 now, nearly going round for a spin through the triple right-hander. It did well to hold on to that one. It was a brilliant drift through that triple right-hander, but for 40, that's another mistake coming out from another driver that should be a lot higher up. But yeah, that BMW just seems to be so good on its tyres. It's fast, it's nimble in the corners. It's just a good all-round car. A bit like what you see potentially from the Ferrari hypercar a few months ago, where that was a big pick in a lot of different tournaments and leagues as Osborne has a slide out of turn one. That it's such a strong car that nothing can really come close to it. That's why it's so impressive. We see the likes of Osborne and also Pure to be such on the pace with the likes of Oconyi and De Vries and beating them sometimes as well, because they're at that little bit of a disadvantage compared to that Aston Martin. And yeah, it really is just an all-round perfect car. And maybe that tyre temperature patch that's coming in 1.0 might potentially level out that playing field, and we could see someone like De Vries, Ramsey, or even 40 switch to a completely different car entirely, because they're now a lot more equal on their tyre wear differences.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things play out, of course. We have got info officially that BMW drivers will be able to switch to the Evo variant without any penalty, so that's always good to know. And apparently we are seeing, on stream side at the very least, a couple of issues with the custom liveries. Apparently a couple of cars that have got liveries, like Staging for example, aren't coming up on the stream, which is bizarre because they do have them and drivers are seeing them. So hopefully we'll see about getting that resolved before race 2 and make sure that there isn't any kind of hiccups on the technical front for that either. Looking at the middle of the pack, it's a 40 trying to get a bit of a recovery in. It's certainly pushing on Fordham right now. He's going to peek his nose in to turn 1. Let's see, is he going to go for it? Looks like Fordham's going to close that door affirmatively, but you can still see the Aston trying to get out of the wake of the BMW and just see what his options are as things do get a little bit tense. Even so, more at the front than ever as you have De Vries now on the defense, but Oconyi is breathing right down his neck. It's only a quarter of a second between the two as they head into the third and final sector shortly. We can see the green Aston is really hounding De Vries for any kind of space. I've got to say, very nice, looking good in that Red Bull style livery as well.
Certainly is. De Vries, hopefully this Red Bull livery can change his fortune as well and become a 2023 Red Bull-esque dominance and performance from the Aston Martin, because that Dutchman does desperately need some better luck on his side. Of course, the only drivers to take victories so far this season are De Vries, Cooley, who of course did that shock result in race 1 with a brilliant strategy, Tom Osborne, and also Zoltan Varkonyi. So we've only had 4 drivers this season from a total of 12 races, and Varkonyi has won the majority. So as we head up into turn 1, once more, who's going to come out on top in this one? It does seem that De Vries is just being a hang-on for now. That last corner exit is doing him a whole world of good up into turn 1, and then Varkonyi's really on the catch-up. He's having to hold on quite dearly through this S section. It seems he's better through the corners, but De Vries that little bit faster down the straights, and that's where he's being able to hold on to that position, especially at that final corner. It's such a long run up the hill into turn 1 as we now head through the little cut through on the national circuit. And is Varkonyi close enough to go for a lunge to the inside this time around? No, he is not. So he just has to sit behind once more. Robert Pure is slowly starting to drop back through the field. He's been overtaken by Alistair Ramsey. He's now under pressure from Jordan Biddle as well. So that Lexus not being able to hang on to its tyres maybe, or just some mistakes creeping in from Robert Pure, which is really starting to hamper his progress. Unfortunately, seeing him fall out of those podium places, potentially out of the top 4 as well. We'll see how that race progresses and how the race at the front progresses as well, with a total of 17 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock. Still plenty of time left to go, just under halfway through this race, sorry. So there's still time for these drivers to get their elbows out, potentially make a last gasp move for their positions.
Yeah, and we'll see if there's anything left in the tank by that point. Apologies for anyone who heard a random sound on my microphone. That was that was part of the spring on one of my boom arm sides, deciding that it didn't want to play ball and pinging right against the metal frame, and so that's certainly something. But here we go. Volkonyi is going to be literally breathing down the neck of De Vries right now. He got very close there. He's within a single tenth. They're going to go through 1-1 together on this twisty section of the course, then cut across. This is a track, especially in this variant. I know you spoke to it before about precision, but it's precision and consistency that makes or breaks your race. I mean, look at these two right here, Volkonyi and De Vries. Despite the pressure on each other, they are really knowing how to go wheel to wheel and still not lose much time, because Ramsey, in all of this, despite being in his own pocket and despite not having any pressure immediately around him, he's 2.5 seconds behind. So it speaks to these two having the consistency, the precision to be able to run all this way and keep it going smoothly.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I mean, through that middle part of the circuit, you do have to be very precise not to cut that corner. You are threading the eye of a needle in that middle part where you come from the S's onto the back straight, that little chicane there, especially with it being off camber as well. Your car is constantly trying to fight against you. This was Volkonyi's best chance, only a lap ago. He got within 2 tenths down this main straight and then was able to get the run out of turn 1. This time he's a little bit further back, but this could potentially work to his advantage as he now hits the brakes into that first corner. Does De Vries go deep, or is he able to hold on to things? A lot better line this time around from the Dutchman, so the Hungarian has to sit behind that little bit longer. Now we'll really see Zoltan Volkonyi be put to work. We've not really seen Volkonyi have to make overtakes for the race lead. He's usually in it after lap 1 and then just shoots off into the distance, or if not, the drivers in front of him just crumble under that pressure. But De Vries holding on very nicely indeed for now. If they do start squabbling, this will invite Alistair Ramsey into the fray as well. We know how good he is at battling too. Also, we know as the defensive maestro of this league so far is Alistair Ramsey. He can soak up that pressure like a sponge, so he'll certainly be someone to look out for. If he can defend, surely he can attack. So Volkonyi and De Vries need to make sure they don't get into an unnecessary squabble here, Ben, but they could be under a real threat from Ramsey.
Well, I think a squabble between the two is inevitable given how feisty these drivers are and how much we know that they like to fight with each other. If it comes to the lead, you're not going to be holding back. It's as simple as that. I'd say Ramsey can join in by all means if he wants, if it gets to that stage, but they've still built up another half second in the time we've been talking about this. So I think by the time they do start really coming to blows and fighting each other, I think they're going to have enough of a gap where they'll be able to soak most of the time loss that they get from squabbling. Same can't be said though, as Jalise is going to go to the side of Stijink right there. He's going to get a very nice line into the final corner. Question is, can he get on the throttle quick enough to be able to hold that BMW back? You're going to see the BMW with a slightly better exit. That gap slowly coming down, and he knows it too. Stijink going all the way to the inside, even crossing that little white line on the pit entry. He's just going to keep the nose in, tiny bit of contact as they go through turn 1. The Aston is going to run wide but continue out ahead and retain the position.
Yes, lucky there for Brian Jalise to hold on to that position. He's a man who usually does get involved in some contact at some point in the race to Jalise, or makes a mistake and he loses that rear wing. That's pretty much the story of his Aston Martin, unfortunately, this season. It does end up the race without the rear wing, and this time it's looking a little bit better, but all the way down in 10th place, not where he usually is. He's usually fighting for at least a top 5 position. So just like Jordan 40, an out of place Aston Martin, and it's not going his way at all at the moment in this first race of round 7 here in COTA. De Vries has been able to shake off Zoltan Volkonyi ever so slightly, and he's brought that gap up to 0.7 seconds, so he's keeping it around about that window, and it's just enough keeping Volkonyi at an arm's reach to be able to hold on to this race lead. But will he get more and more, will the pressure be more and more applied by the Hungarian as this race ticks on, knowing he's got he's got smaller and smaller amounts of time to get that move done, and that's where we could see a very aggressive, a very robust Zoltan Verkonyi, and this is where he's so strong compared to Hendrik de Vries, but it's at the wrong part of the circuit, and that was a big moment there for Zoltan Verkonyi. You could have certainly seen him going completely round there. Was very lucky to hold on to that place and also onto the car as well. So for Zoltan Verkonyi, he can count his lucky stars. He lives to see another day here in second place. But that was a very hairy moment indeed.
Yeah, so it certainly got me standing on end there for a second. I think this kind of demonstrates that Verkonyi, he knows he can have the pace, and he's already known this for several rounds now. He has the wherewithal and the ability to be in the lead, but he's got de Vries in his way, and eventually every driver gets more and more impatient. So I think Verkonyi's just waiting for that ample opportunity to strike once again. And if nothing else, with 10 minutes to go, there's still a few laps that you can have. And I think he'll see about trying to whittle down de Vries' resilience and eventually force him into a mistake that he can't recover from.
Yeah, I think that really is Verkonyi's game plan, but he's a lot closer this time around than he was a lap ago. Are we going to see the dart to the inside line? He looks for it, potentially just put de Vries under some pressure. Could we see the Red Bull car go a little bit deep? We know Verkonyi's strong. Out of turn one, down the hill now, but just not close enough once again. Verkonyi is going to be just staring at the back of his fellow Aston Martin, getting properly annoyed and frustrated at seeing it and just wants to breeze by it. You can see how much more aggressive he takes the corners through the S section, but this is where de Vries is slowly able to build that gap over the bump in the Thread the Needle national part of the circuit, and he just is able to extend it enough that Verkonyi's not able to get the move done into the final sector. So for de Vries, he's holding his cards well. He's doing very nicely to keep Zoltan Verkonyi behind. This is expert defense, knowing where to place your car and also where to use all your pace. Potentially back him up through the Titan Twisty and then blast it down the straight to make sure you have that gap you duly need. For Hendrik de Vries, he is still under all sorts of pressure. He's not able to shake Zoltan Verkonyi off, so I think he's really just going to have to get his shield out and just keep defending from behind. Potentially just try and use this clean air as much as he possibly can to just keep pushing as much through this final corner and onto that main straight to get the best run up into turn one. But Verkonyi is looking to potentially strike now.
Yeah, well, I've got to hand it to de Vries. He's not flinching. He's really keeping a consistent run. And even if some of his lines haven't been perfect through some of these corners, he has still been able to hold his own and put himself at enough of a position where Verkonyi doesn't have an easy time closing a gap or going alongside. I really got to commend him for that, despite the continuous hammering on the door from the 777 car. He's remained resolute through all of this, as you see them both in perfect tandem, snaking through that first sector and then shortcuts through to the back straight, of course, with the smaller national layouts. Both of them keeping a nice, smooth, consistent run. Verkonyi actually going a little bit wide there. I wonder if he's starting to feel a little bit of impatience and he's starting to get a little bit more darty under the pressure.
Maybe so. I've seen it a few times actually now for Verkonyi just going that little bit wider, potentially just carrying that little bit extra speed to try and get that run into the next left-hander. You can see de Vries' line through the double left. It just takes it a bit more narrow, just defending that line, making sure Verkonyi doesn't have a sniff of an opportunity, because you know he will take it. But this is the most Verkonyi really has to work all season. But a big slide there through the triple right-hander. Really had to correct that one. Get out of the right-hander and switch it straight to a full opposite lock on the left-hand side. This could now potentially start to see the full, potentially the tyre wear now coming into play as well. That could see Verkonyi's charge potentially come to an end onto Hendrik de Vries as we head up into turn one once more. No move being made thus far. A little bit further back, Robert Pure is under all sorts of pressure from Jordan Biddle, with Daniel Christo just tucked in behind as well. There's Biddle late on the brakes. Is he close enough? No, just not able to get to the inside line in time. Verkonyi slowly dropping back further as well. The S section not treating him as favourably this time around, but is that a difference in tactics now from the Aston Martin? It does seem that he has potentially backed off a little bit. So maybe stop that congestion here, Ben, to then attack Hendrik de Vries a little bit later around the lap, but he's lost a bit more time, and Jordan Biddle's all over the back of Robert Pure as well. He's really hustling that Aston Martin behind the Lexus. So much more speed for Biddle, but just like what we're seeing with de Vries, Robert Pure placing his car wherever he needs to, and it just seems a little bit too narrow to get those overtakes done, and he's too quick, Biddle, in the wrong places.
Yeah, it's not even a case of, oh, big snap there from Biddle, feeling the pressure. That's going to open the door for Christo. But it's not even about the track being too narrow. It's simply the fact that Pure is able to place his car at such an inopportune spot that you either have to have a massive speed difference or you just have to have a near perfect corner to be able to really stage a challenge. That's the key to good defending, and that's what both Pure and de Vries have been putting on display. It's about being just enough of a nuisance to your opponent. And oh no, Christo is round! He's completely lost the car on the back end. I'm not sure if there was contact or whether that was an unforced error. Either way, he's going to drop behind Osborne Forte as well, as he has to rejoin the order. Luckily, there's enough of a gap between Forte and Fordham to where Christo can slot himself nicely in 8th, and hopefully, little drama as he brings himself to the finish.
Yeah, hopefully now for Daniel Christo, he can just bring himself nicely to the end. But that's unfortunate there, was running in 5th place. Unfortunately, that has come to an end. But yeah, it really is just de Vries and Pure using their car and they're using their knowledge of where to be quick and where they can be that little bit slower and just place their cars in the middle of the road to their advantage. But Vercogne is all over the back of Hendrik de Vries now as we head into the double left-hander. That put de Vries on such a narrow line. This could give Vercogne the run as de Vries goes wide out of the corner, but through this triple right-hander, there's no real open door. It's slammed straight back in his face. It's not such corner you can really make an overtake through unless you're on that inside line. And Hendrik de Vries once again lives to see another day at the front of the field, but this is Vercogne's best chance. He's already rattled the cage. He's seen the chink in the armour from Hendrik de Vries. And no, but Vercogne spins. It's a half spin for Zoltan Vercogne when he needed to put de Vries under pressure. The Hungarian has made another mistake, showing he is human after all. Even without ballast, he can make those mistakes. And for Zoltan Vercogne, it wasn't the pressure getting to de Vries, it was the pressure getting to him. He got frustrated, he got rattled, he saw the opportunity in front of him, but pushed too hard from it, and the door slams into his face. He gets sent into a slide, and now he's struggling with rear tyre temp as he's all out of shape through turn 2, and a little bit of a slide through the S section as well. So for the Hungarian hero, he unfortunately sees himself go from hero to zero within a matter of corners.
He's going to be skating his car around more than he is so much driving it, as like he said, his rear tyres are going to be cooked. I'm not sure if they're going to be flat spotted or whether just in general the surface temps are going to be way too high to handle, at least for them now, as they will eventually equalise, they will get back to an operating temp, but by that point it's already too late. You got 3.5 seconds between yourself and de Vries. That is well and truly gone. So the best you can do now, set yourself up for race 2 and hold off Ramsey. Make sure he doesn't gain any more time on you. Eyes go down as well to Tom Osborne, who is actually doing really well in the recovery phase, as he is going to be chasing onto that top 5 with Biddle in his crosshair.
Certainly is. Osborne certainly the man to look out for in race 2. Same with Vercogne taking the pole, and then that early race mistake really has brought that race winning charge to an end here in the first race here in COTA. So he's certainly a man to keep an eye on for the next 30-minute stint. Oh, that's a big slide there for Osborne. That can now put him under pressure from Jordan Forte. We could get a better run here in the Aston Martin as we head up into turn 1, but no, Forte not close enough to get that move. Osborne having to sit behind Jordan Biddle as well. You can see how much pace both Forte and Osborne have had. They're about 3-4 seconds behind Biddle at one stage. They're now all over the back of him, and they really have been able to put that clear air and also just their setups and tyres to good use and push as hard as they possibly can. You think Osborne might have been a little bit discouraged through the S section due to that previous mistake. We saw him spin from the lead, but he has not looked back since and has been keeping pushing forwards, and has really had a good recovery drive from all the way down. I think it was 10th place he got before he had to recover his way through the field, and now he'll be staring at a top 5 finish. We're going to have 2 more laps to go after this one. It's a 1 minute 30 lap time, and De Vries will be heading through the final few corners now. So definitely 2 more laps remaining in this one. And for Hendrik De Vries, the Dutchman could be staring at a potential first race victory of the season, and for the first time this season really has finally been able to get something done in such a good position.
Really solid showing, really good work from him. And I'm just watching along with Biddle, Osborne, 40. They're all really in close proximity to each other. We saw that little 1v1 graphic quickly flipping between Osborne, Biddle, then Osborne and 40. It's because it really is that close between the 3. They are running in their own little trio, their own little pack. And while I don't expect much movement around the rest of the field, maybe with the exception of Fordham and Jalise, we'll check in with them a little bit later. And we'll of course have maybe a couple of last minute scuffles further down as well. The main thing I want to take away is that Osborne, you mentioned how he might have been deterred but isn't in the S section. I think that speaks to his confidence, is that he knows that it was just an error. There's not much he needs to change. It was just a small clerical error almost, and he can just keep running smoothly. He's not overthinking it. He's just doing what needs to be done, getting his head back in the game right away. That is another hallmark of a strong and talented driver. I'm not surprised that we saw him at the front at the start, and I'm not surprised that we're seeing him continue to challenge on that top 5 now, but he might be running out of time before long, as we have got De Vries now about to start the final lap of race 1.
Final tour will begin ever so shortly. So for Tom Osborne, if you want to get that top 5 finish, you're going to have to get it now and use everything possible. All that mistake was just a little drift offline, hit a bump, and that sent the car completely around. You can see how much he's pushing through that triple right-hander, using all the road he possibly can available. And as he really hunts down Jordan Biddle, who is trying to hunt down Robert Pure as well. So we could see the Lexus dragged into this battle in a few corners' time, as this is all for 4th place. 40's dropped off the back of Osborne, so he's lost that pressure, and he can now focus on Biddle in front. This really is BMW versus Aston Martin versus Lexus, all for a 4th place finish, or potentially even 5th if you are in the Tom Osborne camp, and that'll be a really good recovery from that earlier moment as he now heads through the S section. The BMW doing everything it can to stalk down its prey. You can see how much curb he's taking. He's just so confident. He's really put that moment behind him, and he knows he needs to use everything he possibly can, but I just don't think it will be enough. Or will it? Look how close he's got out of the national circuit. Is Osborne going to look for a last gasp dive to an inside line? No. Biddle goes defensive though. Going to hinder his run out of the corner. Here comes Osborne to the outside line. Could this finally be the move for 5th place? Is he going to be able to get it done to the right-hand side? Now he goes. He does the good old up and under, a good old switcheroo from Tom Osborne, but he won't be able to get it done just yet with Biddle parking the car, and he's gone for it once more, but he's had a slide and it won't be enough. But at the front of the field, it's been Dutch defiance. This is how you defend for a race victory. He made the championship leader work from it. He's finally be able to bring it across the line. He's got the bottle. It's Hendrik De Vries who wins race 1, our 5th different race winner of the season, from Zoltan Verkonyi and then Alistair Ramsey in 3rd. A brilliant result for the Red Bull Racing Aston Martin driver. What a way to take your first victory under all sorts of pressure from Verkonyi, and that is how you cement yourself as a driver that can do it, with then Robert Pure in 4th. Jordan Biddle did end up finishing in that 5th place, only just in front of Tom Osborne by over a 10th of a second. Then it was Jordan 40, Daniel Christo, Brian Jalise, Matt Fordham, Stegning, Garnham, Borgenson, and then Chris Willems rounds out your field with Dan Wilson and Gary Barnum DNF. But for Hendrik De Vries here, Ben, it's utter delight here in COTA. That is how you take your first race victory of the season under all sorts of pressure.
It really is some impressive stuff, and it sets us up really well heading into the 2nd race. I'm very much excited to see what these drivers have in store. Of course, as you know, so we've got 2 sets of racing tonight, and we have got a lot to look forward to. So This is only half the battle, metaphorically and literally, folks. So you're going to want to stick around and see what these drivers have to offer, as the first race nerves, the pre-race nerves, they're gone now. The drivers are acclimatized, so this could be a much spicier rendition of the race that we've just had about to come up.
Yes, it certainly can. It will be all about if Osborne could potentially get the qualifying he did, of course, for that first race. Can he hold on to it this time around? He certainly's got the pace. He showed that with that recovery up into 6th place, but nearly into 5th. If he had potentially one more lap, he could have got Biddle, but he showed he did have the pace. He just needs to iron out those errors, but he has been BMW's golden boy since Brazil onwards. That's when he joined the championship, and he's just not looked back since. Of course, in Brazil, was hampered by the tyre wear, which then allowed the Aston Martins to demote him through down the order. But here in COTA, it was a mistake of his own. Of course, Osborne has won a race this season, the first race in Bahrain, so he's not new to the top step of the podium. He's not unaccustomed to it, but he'll be looking to try and return there. And I think you can't really count out Robert Pure either. Yes, he had a little bit of an off race there, Ben, with just dropping off completely due to tyre wear, I think that was. But he's now got that race under his belt. He knows how to push the car, when to push the car. I think we're going to see a completely different Robert in that second race.
Yeah, I think we will. I think it's going to be one that we definitely have to watch, and one that I'm certainly looking forward to seeing. Now, I'm going to go quickly to technical intermission while we join race 2, but keep those thoughts going in the chat, folks, and we will see you back here in a minute. Don't go anywhere just yet, as when we return, we will be trackside for race 2.
go! Three, two, one, go!
ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome back.
welcome back. Hey, we might as well do it in unison, mate. But
Yeah, we might as well.
yeah, but we are back. We are now here with race 2, and we jump in straight away with qualifying. We are wasting zero time here. We join on board with Borgerson in the Ferrari on the cameras. As you can see, he's going to be one of the first. You may see a large reduction in drivers as well. That is because, as mentioned prior, there were about 7 drivers who were declared no-shows but still on the driver list. So they have been removed for race 2 from the server. We now have a much better representation of who's competing, who's on track, etc. But Borgerson is going to be starting his lap now, among others. And Hyperpole for race 2 is now underway.
It certainly is. We are back here in sunny Texas. An early morning start here for the drivers on race 2. 9 AM track time. We shall see what they are going to be able to do with the sun glaring straight into their faces. So as we head into turn 1 with Sebastian Borgensen, not had the greatest of luck so far in his Ferrari so far this season. Not really had too many great results either to write home about. So be looking to try and change that this evening. Of course, last time out in Fuji, the same race that Mark Cooley did, the wet weather strategy, he did the exact same thing. He's able to hold on for a top 10 finish. Still not where he would want to be for the Dane. So as we now head down the hill into the next left-hander in this shootout for pole, you can see the rain, like in Q, in the first type of pole we saw for race 1, was still beaming down onto the circuit. So the track going to be a little bit damp, like we saw in that previous qualifying as well. So it's another challenge for these drivers to acclimatise to as Borgerson heads into the double left-hander and then into the final few corners of the circuit. One of those, well, 3 of those, should I say, being the triple right-hander, all counting as their own individual corner. A little bit of a snap for Sebastian Borgensen as we now head into the penultimate corner. Off the throttle, a little slide once more now under braking as we head down the hill into the final corner. Tom Osborne was just in front of him on the road, so let's see what last race's pole sitter can do. For he's charged to the front of the field. It's Borgensen to the line. He sets the time only 900ths off Brian Jalish. Jordan Biddle 5/10 off the pace as Alistair Ramsey now goes to the top of the times. They'll be coming in quick and fast. It's for Conye now who shoots straight to the top. Christo 8/10 off. 300ths separating the top 2 of Jordan. 40 now goes half a second clear. Brilliant lap time.
That's a
from
32.
the Aston Martin. That's a 32.9. I think that's the quickest we have seen all evening long. And for Jordan 40, we said he was out of position in race 1. We said he had a load of pace. Same with Tom Osborne as well. And he certainly has shown that. A brilliant lap time from Jordan 40. Ben, that's going to take a lot of beating. A lot of time to make up to beat.
I say, what a run there. Unfortunately, Paul, we just on board with, had a minor skate on the penultimate corner in his Lexus. He's still going to make his way through. We kind of see what time he would have got here. It was a 34.481. Still solid enough for the mid-pack, but we know that that could be even further if he is able to push. But no, big surprise coming in from 40, 32.9, and that is a really solid initial statement. Is there going to be any kind of challenge from the likes of Arconyi as we now make our way through into the last sets of corners? Remember, 25 seconds on the clock, so hyperpole meaning you only get 1, maybe 2 runs if you are lucky with your timings, but Varkonyi coming through now. 32 point, wait a minute here. So we have got 32.2 coming from Varkonyi, but Osborne has just gone and flown through those timing gates. 32.194. What do you even say to that? As a ridiculously strong run. You have Ramsey with a 32.5, 40, 32.6. De Vries coming in with a 32.7 as well. So the strongest drivers at the top really setting those timing boards alight.
Yep, and Osborne will not go again. Another mistake through the S's like we saw in race 1, this time in qualifying for race 2, has ruled him out of contention. So all eyes do turn to the Hungarian, the championship leader of Zoltán Várkonyi, with his rival Osborne not being able to set a better lap time, and Várkonyi neither. So Várkonyi pulls into pit lane. He will not improve. Jordan 40 will be next, really, to have an attempt. Same with Hendrik de Vries as well. He's just a little bit further around, so I think it's best we go on board with the Dutchman who won that opening race here in COTA. A brilliant performance here in the sunny Lone Star State, and I think that track here, Ben, has just got that little bit too damp, a little bit too greasy, with the Freeze now a spin through the triple right-hander for Jordan 40. I'm not sure he's improving either. You can see that window wiper going a lot more aggressive this lap than it did a few laps ago. So I think that's going to be qualifying over, and Tom Osborne again, BMW brilliant, taking that pole position.
Amazing stuff, but unfortunately, yeah, say the heavens have opened. It doesn't quite fully get captured on the broadcast, unfortunately. I think that might be to do with some of my settings a little bit. But
no, 40's gone quicker.
Wait, 40 just got 32.0.
What's a lap time, Jordan 40, with the tricky conditions, the track ever changing, getting greasier and greasier. He has mastered the slip and slide, and the Aston Martin, who didn't participate in qualifying in race 1, here in race 2, hits the front of the field and snatches it at a death. What a time, Jordan 40. Take a bow.
Take a bow indeed, and even with such a tight, condensed field, particularly with that top 5 really pushing the envelope in the 32s, it is a standout performance from 40, and he's going to set himself very nicely heading into this set, as we have ourselves a night race here, and it's going to be very spicy indeed. Looks like we have a couple of hiccups at the front, but it's going to be a strong lockout. Row 1 and 2 is 40 and Osborne, with Várkonyi and Ramsey, De Vries and Biddle going to be in 5th and 6th. And then it is Gilles and Borgeson. I think some of the cars aren't quite displaying properly. You can see the badges aren't always matching up to the cars that they actually are. So you're going to have to trust your imagination. Fordham and Stegent complete your top 10, with Christo and Poor in 11th and 12th. Garnham and Wilson are going to be in 13th and 14th, with Willems, Donnelly, Barham and Cooley finishing things off. And yeah, you can see the numbers and the badging definitely aren't quite playing ball. Apologies for that. And that is going to be where we wrap things. So, race at night. It's going to get interesting.
It adds a whole new challenge to the fray. Breaking points will certainly be different. It may catch you by surprise, and of course, with only using your headlights is the only way to see the track in front of you. Not many track lights around here in Texas. Certainly just add to that challenge ever more, of course. It can catch you by surprise here in the dark. If someone goes for a spin, if someone flashes their headlights, they can add that pressure onto your back and really start to mount a challenge. So as we make our way to the line once more, I took race 1, Ben. Why don't you take the green flag here in race 2 and get us underway here in COTA for what will be a very nice, very spectacle, a very flashy, should I say, night race here in COTA.
It will indeed be a very spectacle, but I say, all too kind, mate. Now, let's see what these drivers have to give. Of course, Tom Osborne, he's going to come into this with a chip on his shoulder following his later finish in race 1 than he would have liked. He knows he's capable of it. He knows what he can bring to the table. Now, him alongside 40, they're going to be the stars of the show. The big upsets, the wild cards as we come to the line. And we're about to get started for race 2 of LMGT3 Challenge. We are away. The track is hot and it's dark, but things are about to get spicy nonetheless. Here's Várkonyi immediately going to be pushing on the egress and the staging of an attack as he goes straight to the inside. 40 knows the predicament he's in. He's going to go narrow, and Osborne is going to waste no time in going side by side, but there's chaos further down. Biddle is getting involved. Multiple car contacts through the first corner, and everyone just scrambling to get some space on the track while it's getting too hot to handle for some. The front end is ever electric. The three have broken out and immediately started gaining a gap. Is half a second between Varkonyi and Jalish. These top three are already trying to stage a breakaway.
They certainly are. I think that's Alistair Ramsey going off in the background as well in disaster for Tom Osborne once again. This time before we even got underway. Caught for speeding. Drive-through penalty to the BMW. So disaster once again for Tom Osborne in such a good position to win this race. More controversy, more drama, and more mistakes slowly creep in for the BMW. So he's going to have to serve that one ever so shortly. Is anyone going for a move a little bit further back? Robert Pure only 10th place thus far. I think he was caught up in that lap 1 drama up at turn 1. And looking for Konyi now all over the back of Jordan 40. Of course, drivers may be a little bit slower here in the dark, not being able to see their braking points as clearly. And this now heading into the final corner is Jordan 40. Just trying his best at hanging on to the coattails of Tom Osborne for now, but here we might see Sultan Fakonyi have his first stage at an attacker, first opportunity to break the 40 hearts as we now head into turn 1. Look at the defensive line there from Jordan 40, able to hang on to that position for now, but Fakonyi with that good old up and under, he loves that move through turn 1, the good old switch back, but he's got to be on the outside for turn 2, which will then bring in the inside for turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, the S section. And Fakonyi breaks through. Fakonyi up into second place, a net race lead, and the Hungarian hero hits the second place spot and potentially the front of the field once again.
Yeah, he's got a good spot there and a really well executed move on 40. Both of them driving really well, but Vakonyi is just forcing himself into an unfavourable position and then able to make his way round nice and clean. Great exit speed, and that's how he was able to hold that move. Christo, a little bit on the defence here as he's got a bit of a challenge either side. He's trying to catch up to Stejink, but at the same time hold Borgerson off. It's about juggling these two factors as best as he can. He's hoping that Borgerson is getting distracted by the Lexus that's now coming up on him on the inside. That is poor. Going for the move into the last corners of Sector 2 and into Sector 3, although Borgerson is going to have something to say about that. He's going to lay claim to the triple apex on the right hand side. Oh, even a little bit of close shaves, but no contact, just unforced error. Poor is round and he's at the back of the field just like that.
Oh, disaster there for Robert Pure. Another driver with so much talent, unfortunately making a mistake of their own. De Vries here has dropped down to 12th, so I think he was also caught up in that lap 1 squabble. So him and Pure having not the greatest of races so far here in Texas in this second race of the evening. And very contrasting fortune from De Vries, from the delight of race 1 to the despair so far of the opening minutes of race 2. One can certainly see if he can claw his way back through the field. Vakonyi now trying to close that gap down to Tom Osborne out in front with Jordan 40 now coming under pressure from Brian Jalise. So it seems that 40 after that race 1 action was quite quick in the latter stages indeed, has potentially just been caught out by these darker conditions. That could be where the mistakes are slowly starting to creep in, and this is a much better race from Brian Jalise as well here, Ben, after what was quite a disappointing opening race, only finishing in 10th. Now up, potentially battling for the top 3. He's back where he should be, and back where he's been squabbling all season long. Yeah,
well, feels like a good return to form for him for sure, and only one that he's not going to be taking lightly. He knows the opportunity that he has on his hands, and he's certainly not going to want to squander it. Stejink under severe pressure as Christo is going to go narrow onto the inside here as we head through the third sector, and the last couple of corners very nicely done from the Aston right now, and both of them making their way through. Interestingly, Stejink's livery has now disappeared for the other racers as well, so that tends to indicate some kind of technical issue, although it looks a little bit weird because I know that by default the custom livery cars are matte black, but the shade of matte black that Stejink has on its car, it almost makes it look like the car is completely unlit. It just looks completely a flat black there. You see it as we come round. Yeah, there you go. It's a mild lighting, but it looks completely flat black. Very odd.
It certainly does there for Stigning. I think the same could be said for Brian Jalise as well. His car looks in very similar condition, at least on my screen anyway. So very much for both Jalise and also for Stegning. They've got their livery issues, and Tom Osborne did come into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty, so he now comes to the back of the field. And it'll have to be another recovery drive from him if he wants any chance of fighting his way back up into that top 10. And what a recovery drive it will have to be, because he's got a lot of work to do. Over 5 seconds behind, 10 seconds behind the top 10, and is needing to claw that down over the next 24 minutes to find any chance of at least getting a semi-decent result, but a very disappointing one indeed. That's 2 front row starts, well, that's 3 front row starts in a row, which have not really played into his hands. So that's allowed Zoltan Fakonni to be unleashed up in front, and this is what we know him to do oh so well, just break away from the rest of the field. He's 3 seconds clear, and Jordan 40 is really under pressure from Brian Jalise, but he can't count out Jordan Biddle either.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing, is the amount of gap he's been able to peel just from these couple of laps alone. Seriously impressed with his performance, but also impressed with many others on this course. I'm looking at 40, looking at Biddle, Jalise as well in the middle of the two. And it is unfortunate for Osborne. He's got an even harder job than he did last time out. Because remember, last time he was able to recover quickly. He came out about P10, I believe, from his previous incident on the S's. So he's got more work to do. He's managed to get past Port, he's managed to get some kind of headway, but I don't think we're going to be able to see the kind of resurgence that he was looking for last time. Meanwhile, De Vries going very narrow, jumping both apexes in order to get past Alistair Ramsey and get into the top 10.
Yeah, nicely done there from...
That's Garnham, my mistake, sorry.
Garnham to get past Alistair Ramsey, the Lexus driver, trying to make amends for his spin that happened in race 1, and now breaking into that top 10 and following Hendrik De Vries through as well. So De Vries is doing quite well too. Into that 9th place now, so he's been able to hang on quite nicely, as also Tom Osborne has been able to get by on Robert Pure, so that's a move from 13th place, but a long way to go before they get to Dan Wilson, around about 4 seconds separating Pure and Osborne from Wilson. So that will be a big challenge on Osborne's hands, but Garnham is still not done yet with Alistair Ramsey, and De Vries is hunting down on Stegning as well. So there's still plenty to play for in the lower ends of this top 10. And Stegning, I think, might have to go on the defensive here, because De Vries is looking very aggressive indeed.
We'll see what he has in the tank, as De Vries is going to be there. You can see him going a little bit deeper through turn 1, and that's going to be the door right open. That's the ticket that De Vries was looking to get, and he got it express as he's making his way cleanly out of turn 2 and comfortably ahead of the BMW. So very nicely executed. Already half a second between these two cars. We are seeing a local yellow. That is going to be for Dan Wilson, who just had a bit of over-rotation heading into turn 1. Fortunately, his rear overtook his front, so he is now going to be emphatically down in P14. Doesn't look like he's going to get much recovery time, but meanwhile we also have that is going to be Alistair Ramsey making his way around Garnham in the Lexus, and Garnham's, I think, lost a little bit of momentum here. I'm not sure whether there was a mistake somewhere along the line, but it seems like one drop has turned into multiple over the course of these couple of laps.
Yeah, I think his feathers have certainly been ruffled. And unfortunately for Garnham, just hasn't been able to find that rhythm once more ever since being overtaken by Franklin Stegning, and has really been on that back foot ever since. Matt Fordham is under pressure now from Daniel Christo. He's doing quite well in his BMW. Is Fordham. This is the highest we've seen him for quite a while. So if he can hold on to this top 5 finish, he'll be a very happy man indeed, you would think, in that BMW. Of course, the best of the BMWs, with Tom Osborne all the way down in 12th and Stegning in 9th. So as we exit out of turn 1, it is going to be Fordham who just holds on. What about a battle for second place, 40 versus Jalise? And it is going to be the man in second, Jordan 40, just holding on for now, but Zoltan Fakonni really breaking away. He's found his old form. It took him a race with no balance to get back to where he used to be, but he certainly is back on top. And once again here, Ben, like we've seen and said so many times this season, for Kanye, just stretching his legs, using that clean air, and not looking back, just driving off into the horizons.
Yeah, Vakonyi is... There's a reason that he's currently at the sharp end of the championship. It's because this is what he does. He's able to get a clean break, and then after that point, he effectively goes into hot lap mode. He's able to make that mental switch, and just like that, he's away. He's set a 31.9. That's the fastest lap he's had this session, which is immense. I don't think we even had a quali time that touched into the 31s. We had 32 flat, but he's gone even faster than the fastest quali time throughout the course of a race stint. What do you even say to that?
Just take a bow. Just a sheer round of applause for Sultan Vakonyi. The car's a lot heavier in the race stint. We're at night as well, so the temperatures may be a little bit more favourable for the tyres, and potentially with that little bit of greasy rain we had, that could have seen some slower times. But still, Vakonyi on a heavy car, with that fuel, with tyres that are getting more and more worn as the laps tick by. It's just sheer dominance, and this is what we've been This is what we were expecting coming into this evening. A performance like this in not only this race, but race 1 as well. And he's certainly delivering here in race 2 of COTA. But it's taken him a little bit of time to get back up to speed after a very, very disappointing Fuji with not even a top 5 finish to his name. Certainly has had to fight back. He's only missed out on 5 race victories all season long. Of course, race 1 here, both races at Fuji and both races at Bahrain. But now we are back here in COTA. He's got his ballast free, currently looking like he's going to be back to winning ways. As Jordan 40 still holding off Brian Jalise for that second place, still not succumbing to that pressure. And further back, Paul Garnham is now coming under pressure from Tom Osborne as well, so in another position lost potentially for the Lexus driver.
Well, I gotta say, once again, impressed with Osborne. He's up into P12 and he looks like he's certainly knocking on the doors of P11. Again, a driver that we know that has the pace, but the consistency failed him, or in this case, he got that penalty, which completely flipped his race on its head. So he hasn't had the best stroke of luck, but he's still managed to make the best out of bad situations twice over now as he tails on the back of the Lexus. And oh no, the Lexus has a spin, luckily. Osborne able to dodge, but Garnham is going to luckily make a quick recovery though and get himself quickly back on his feet, although Poor is going to have something to say about his P12 that he's managed to just about hold on to.
Yeah, beautiful recovery there. Really got the car flicked round quite quickly. Here comes Robert Pure to the inside line on Paul Garnham. Is he going to get that move done? No, he's just going to have to sit behind for now. The 2 Lexus teammates now going to be squabbling here. I think Garnham just crumbling under that pressure from Tom Osborne just in front of him. It's all about just in front. Alistair Ramsey is all over the back of Franklin Stegning into the national part of the circuit, and now back into the end of the second sector and looking for that move to the inside line. It is a very late lunge indeed. Stegning tried to defend under braking, but will it be enough as Ramsey now on the outside line? Stegning going to maybe just try and hold the apex. Ramsey does go for that switcheroo. A little bit of contact between the pair as we now head into that double right-hander. Stegning a very narrow line, but Ramsey even tighter. He manages to bully his way up the inside line, opens that door, slams straight through it, and Alistair Ramsey is up into 9th place. That is how you take the opportunities and work for an overtake and really put the car in front under all sorts of pressure. Brilliant stuff from Alistair Ramsey. Yeah,
beautiful. He's posted the letter, he's got through the mailbox, and right now he's on his way express shipping into the single-digit positions. Really nicely done from the Aston Martin, and metaphor that's extremely contrived aside, it's looking like a very good race for him at this point in time. Meanwhile, checking back with the front of the order, 40 is going to be almost 9 seconds away from Vakonyi, so it's, unless there is a major mistake, safe to say, Vakonyi might be off into the distance with this one, and the focus then becomes how Jalise can get under 40's skin and challenge for that P2 spot, as Biddle is going to be breathing down his neck, much to do the same. All of them looking a little bit squirrely heading into the 3rd sector, but those 3 Astons, potentially 4, as Christo is waiting in the wings if they do lose too much time. You can even see in the background, say, Vakodny, just a completely different section of the circuit there. Really impressive stuff. But the three of them are certainly going to be looking at their options as we head into the second half of race 2.
Yeah, this race just showing the dominance of the Aston Martins, kind of like Brazil, where it was just all about Aston. They run the show, and the only one that could come near him was the man who got pole position for race 1 and second place for race 2 and has made 2 uncharacteristic mistakes, really, and that was Tom Osborne out in Sao Paulo, and here in Texas he seems to be the only driver to really get the better of him as well. But unfortunately, 2 mistakes have brought him out of that contention, and Jordan 40 still holding on well against Brian Gillies. He's doing very nicely indeed, as Gillies is now under all sorts of pressure from Jordan Biddle, so attack could be his best form of defence, so we need to push on up to the back of 40 as well. So as we then head into the Est section, of course based off Maggots, Backets and Chapel in Silverstone, that is the real reason why they have been made at this Texas circuit here in COTA. So now for Brian Gillies, he's trying his best to catch up to 40, but I do see there's more potentially of an opportunity here, Ben, for Biddle to get past Gillies than there is Gillies to get past 40, because it seems that the man in second place just has that upper hand. The mistakes and different lines just really clawing Biddle closer to Gillies here.
Yeah, as that gap is closing more and more. The more attacks are starting to come out. You even see the difference in lines, both from trying to get out of dirty air and for Biddle just seeing what kind of things he can do to spook Gillies, to force him into a bad position, and to ultimately close that gap to make a move. We see Cristo now having closed his own gap from a second to about half, although he's still dropping in and out. It's not quite consistent to tell. Eyes, though, are on Biddle. He challenges for the podium. He's very hungry for it, as we can see by the way his car moves, by the way he's just trying to see any kind of spark or opportunity that is going to befall him.
Yeah, he certainly is, as he now heads up into turn 1. Not close enough once again for a move. What about Franklin Stegnick versus Tom Osborne? The 2 BMWs going to be battling down that main straight. This is for 10th place. Osborne with his recovery drive now looking to the inside line. Is he going to be able to get close enough to go for the move? He's very ambitious and very late on the brake. Puts a lot of trust into Franklin Stegnick as we now head out of turn 1. Osborne on the inside, surely going to get this one done, or is he? As Stegnick fights back, gets that better drive out the corner, and he keeps that 10th place. Lovely defensive driving from Franklin Stegnick to hold on to that 10th place, with Osborne now just having to follow in tow through the S section as we head onto the national circuit. And for Osborne, he'll have to see the back of his fellow BMW compatriot once more. As look at that, Stegnick very aggressive to the inside line, actually gets a drive-through penalty. I think that's for corner cutting, and he lets Tom Osborne through. So disaster for Franklin Stegnick. Could have been a top 10 finish. Now having to settle potentially for 13th, if not 14th place, as he picks up a drive-through, which dismays his challenge for a potential top 10 finish.
Yeah, that's always a tough one when you get served a penalty like that mid-race, but sometimes it's just the nature of the beast. You have to accept it, and I think in this case, yielding off, the best thing you can do is like, right, it's out of my hands now. Might as well just make sure I can finish the race without any more drama.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a very difficult penalty to get, a very harsh one indeed, as the front of the field. Gillies actually making that attack on Jordan 40. I think there was a mistake from 40 out of the final corner, and look at that, Gillies now on the inside through turn 2, but wasn't able to get the move done. It's all kicking off now at the front of the field with Biddle trying to get involved and pick up the pieces of this scrap, but Gillies showing his intentions, showing that if 40 makes another mistake, he will capitalise on it, and he will go for that move. So 40 better beware of Brian Gillies, and this could be the next opportunity down now into the next left-hander. Gillies is going to look for it. He sends it to the inside line, but 40 covers it off well. This is inviting Daniel Cristo onto the back of the Trio 2. He, of course, was fluctuating in and out of around about half a second. He's now all over the back of Jordan Biddle, as Gillies has fell back to about a second from Jordan 40. So this is now allowing Biddle to get that attack he needs. So for Jalise, it is really high pressure moments like this where attack could be your best form of defense, but if you get it all wrong, it invites the car behind you to then get that attack on his own. And for Jordan Biddle, he's now waiting in the wings, and with Jalise falling off the back of 40, this could be his best chance yet.
As a time is going to soon run out. It says 10 minutes to go, which does sound like a lot, but also isn't that much. You've got a lot of these moves that are being tried, but they're not always successful. So the big thing now here is if you want to go for a move in these last 10 minutes, it needs to be clean, it needs to be decisive, and it needs to stick. You've got to know that when you go for that move, it has to land.
Certainly do. It does have to land, and for Jalise, that did need to land if you wanted to remove that pressure from Jordan Biddle and stop his fall off from 40, but it did not. He missed that landing completely and fell straight onto his face, and it's inviting the 397 of Jordan Biddle in 4th place all over the back of him, but Daniel Christo still is trying to fight this one too. You cannot rule him out of contention. As look at his run through the national circuit. He was so aggressive there through threading the needle, but he still wasn't close enough to getting that move done on Jordan Biddle in front. It is ebbing and flowing this race. Drivers having the momentum at different stages. It all boils down to these final 10 minutes, 3/4 of the way through. And now we're going to see if Biddle is going to be able to get that move done. So as we exit out of the triple right-hander, I don't think Biddle's going to be close enough, but Brian Jalise slowly starting to streak clear. So again, that momentum just shifting into Jalise's favour lap by lap. It just keeps ebbing and flowing. It's all going to be down to that final lap, I think, here, Ben.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to come to those final few corners, I think, as there doesn't seem to be any major swing either way right now. It seems to be a little bit in one direction, then a little bit in the other. Nobody has clear dominance over the situation, so the big thing now is just seeing how these drivers react, as things quickly could go sideways or go differently at any point. Jalise is over a second away from 40, so unless he can make up a major gap, his priority now needs to be keeping Biddle at bay.
Yes, it certainly does. Maybe that one window has gone a-begging, but P3 is still on the cards. Not rule that one out, but he still needs to, push on to the front of Jordan 40 so he can at least have a little bit of a window to fight into, and then just potentially go for that move on the final lap, but maybe catch 40 napping and still try and capitalise on those mistakes. But the main thing is hang on to this 3rd place if you are Brian Jalise, because you need this so desperately. He has been on the podium before this season, but has not returned to that rostrum for a long old time. What a race to do it at here in Texas under the lights. It's been a very solid drive indeed from Brian Jalise. As we then exit out of the triple right-hander, Christo still hanging on in tow. Jalise is closing that gap down now to Jordan 40. That was about 1.3 seconds now, down to a second. As Hendrik de Vries, I think, has been able to make his way past Matt Fordham. I think the BMW made a mistake there through the triple right-hander, allowing the Aston Martin through. So the top 6, now all Aston Martins.
Yeah, I think there was a slight hiccup there. So the Aston proving to be the favourite, the pick out of the top brass here at LMGT3 Challenge, and that sets us up nicely into the final 5 laps here. So 6 minutes left on the clock, so including current, 4 more laps to go. At this point, it's going to be that final push. Who is going to have the bravery to take a swing? We saw Paul getting a nice move done on staging earlier in the session, and is going to be just confirming his P12 that he's trying to lock in there. But eyes to the front, eyes to 40, to Jalise, to Biddle, to Christo as well, as these 4 cars are going to be the closest out of anyone to be able to go for that final fight, and even a little bit of a championship upset for some of these positions going into this final 5 minutes.
Certainly will be, with Brian Jalise looking for a good result. This can certainly also jump the likes of Biddle, 40, and potentially Hendrik de Vries if he can get close enough to this squabble, to jump potentially Alistair Ramsey in those standings. So that could still be on the cards for second place in the standings. For Conley's pretty much got one hand on the trophy, especially after this race win he is currently on the cards of getting. He has one hand on that championship trophy, but for Ramsey and Co, they are squabbling for that second place in the drivers' standings, and they will need it so desperately if they want any chance of being known as best of the rest, because for Conley is just unstoppable when he is in his groove. So as we head out of turn 2 down into the S section, it does seem that potentially the fight for this second place is swinging back into the hands of Jalise, because he is starting to bring that gap down quite exponentially and closing onto the back of 40 at a rate of knots.
He's going to be closing in fast. And half a second nears that sort of Goldilocks zone where you can decide whether you want to go for a fight or stay back a little bit. And right now is going to be that crucial point where Jalise needs to make a decision. Is he going to challenge 40, or is he going to prioritise holding off Biddle? But, like you said earlier, I think a good attack could be just as much of a defence here. And that is going to be a tactic and strategy that he'll have to rely on. There's no real other way to phrase it than Jalise needs to push forward here. So far, he's actually dropping a significant amount of time to 40. He's gone out of that second zone. But we'll see if he's able to bring that back before the flag falls and before things close. Crazily enough, Vakonyi, 14.2 seconds, he really has just run off with it.
Just your average Zoltan Vakonyi display when he gets to the front of the field. He just runs off into the horizons and he just never, ever looks back. With 2 more laps after this one, I think potentially a third, if Zoltan Vakonyi does get into a bit of a groove. But I do believe there'll be 2 more laps of racing action to go. Very minimal time left on the clock. That's why it's so crucial for Brian Jalise to make his decision now, because there's not much time left, and if you want to get that move done on Jordan 40, you're going to need to push up to the back of him, but he just doesn't seem close enough, so it's definitely going to be about defensive work. But talking about defensive work, Biddle was dropped off by about 2 seconds, so he's maybe just found himself in that little pocket that he needed to. Robert Pure has made a mistake. He's dropped down behind Franklin Stegning and is down in 13th place. So his race goes from bad to worse, and after a 4th place finish in the first race, now a 13th in race 2, not really the greatest of contrast for Robert Pure in the 2 races here in COTA. For Matt Fordham, he's sitting in nicely behind Hendrik de Vries, with Alistair Ramsey behind him, and Osborne's charge is somewhat halted after he got past Morganson. He stayed in 9th place, but for 40, it's really just going to be between him and Jalise now, I think, for second place and for the podium positions. The question is, what order will they come down to? And we will have 2 more racing laps to go.
Yeah, I would say final chances here for anyone on the field who wants to go for a challenge. Only ones that I really see doing it are maybe Borgerson trying to get a move back on Osborne after he got a clean run just a lap prior. Or potentially, as you've been saying, Jalise going for a last-minute send on 40. So there really is a lot of space between multiple of the cars here on the track. We have 14 cars on the circuit still. Wilson being at the back and say a lap down at this point, but kudos to you for still keeping it going. Unfortunately, we did lose Chris Willems. He has DNF'd out of the session, but eyes to front. Jalise with that really strong first sector. He's closed a mass amount of time here. We'll see what he's got under the hood and what he can bring to this final fight, as now we make our way through and into the 3rd sector. It looks like Jalise is done playing around. He's got only a few tenths of a second. He teeters on that half-second line. Again, the Goldilocks zone, but he's going to have to make that move soon. We see him going much wider into the first apex of that left-hander. He's just trying to get on the throttle faster and faster, although it looks like a bad line as he dropped quite a lot of time there.
Yes, he certainly did, and that could now put him under all sorts of pressure from potentially Biddle behind, but he's not close enough, so it is going to be 40 and Jalise to shoot out for second on this final lap. And we've seen that Jalise potentially has just kept his tyres into a better window for this final tour of the circuit. And He'll be getting closer and closer to the back of 40 in front as we head up into turn 1 for the final time. Fakonyi has led us to that to that white flag for the final time here in Texas. We'll see who comes out on top here in COTA between 40 and Jalise for second and third places respectively, with Biddle now 3 seconds behind the man in third. So it really is a scrap between these two, but it just seems that Jalise is not going to be close enough at all to get a move done as we head into the national circuit later in the break. You can see how much more committed and how much more willpower Jalise just has through that chicane, with 40 just thinking about holding on, keep those tyres in good nick and hold on to the end of this race and get that second place that he dearly needs. But out in front, it is going to be Zoltan Varkonyi heading through the triple right-hander now into the penultimate corner. Again, he may have had an off race with the ballast, but he has been unleashed off the reins, and this is Varkonyi at his very best. The average performance we expect when this car has zero ballast. It was a slow start to this evening, but a Hungarian hero goes back to winning ways here in Texas. A superb drive from Zoltan Varkonyi, who will finish 16 seconds clear of Hulo, Jalise, or 40. They're going to be side by side potentially into the final corner, and it'll be 40 who just holds on in front of the Aston Martin of Jalise. Very close for all the way to the end. Unfortunately for Jalise, wasn't able to get by the Aston Martin of 40. It's Christo 5th from defeat to 3-6. Fordham, Ramsey, Osborne, Borgenson round out your top 10. For Zoltan Varkonyi, your championship leader, it's back to winning ways, and the domination continues.
Brilliant stuff there around and across the board. Osborne making himself back up into P9, so actually managing to get back into that top 10 for another shot just yet. Exceptional stuff. Great recovery once again from Osborne, making the best out of a poor situation. We do see the rest of the field now coming and making their way through to finish things up. I say it's Varkonyi, 40, Jalise, Biddle, Christo, De Vries, Fordham, Ramsey, Osborne and Borgeson in your top 10. Then Garnham is going to be, albeit not by much, leading Opposteging in 11th and 12th, and then Poor comes through to finish in P13, just behind in the Lexus. Really solid stuff, and while we didn't see everyone finish, we did say goodbye, I believe, to Wilson and Willems. We did still see some great racing. We saw Cooley, Barham and Donnelly also being out, but I think some of those were still the no-shows that weren't filtered out on the first run. But even so, great stuff. Really impressive races, really impressive racing all round, and I am suitably pleased with how everyone's done tonight, in particular those at the fighting at the sharp end.
Yeah, it was a good race from all. I think a very clean affair as well. Proper hard racing, that one. Nothing too borderline and over the edge, so very nicely done from everyone. But it's Zoltan Varkonyi who will get more ballast added to his car once again, and who will be our next different winner of the season after De Vries in that race 1, getting the victory. So we have 5 different winners from the opening 7 rounds. But of course, Zoltan Varkonyi has a grand total of, I think now, that's up to 9 race victories. So a very, very strong season from Varkonyi, but he will have a total of 40 kilos. I think he's going to have 65 for next week. I'm not too sure if it is 65 exactly, but I think it is 65 kilos he'll have next week to battle away with. And like we see with Fiji and also for Bahrain, when he has that extra ballast, it does come to bite him, and that Aston Martin does not enjoy it at all. So it could be a big challenge here, Ben, for Varkonyi next time out, which will be, I believe, at, if I can quickly just double check, it's at Spa next week. And I think that will be back with Joseph, but that should be a very interesting one indeed, Ben.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to it. It might not be me in the box, as I think we'll be back with Joseph, as you say. But say thank you to everyone as well. Say apologies, there have been a couple of production hiccups. I know Max doesn't have his usual blur, and my camera has decided to spontaneously stop working and connecting out of nowhere, which is always fun But even so, it's been a brilliant round tonight. Looking forward to seeing what Spa brings, and might be able to watch rather than having to be involved in some kind of production for a change. But also keep things eyes peeled, because we do have here at GRDC the World Sprint Championship Season 2 coming in very soon. We've got some neat little surprises, and I think you're going to love what we have in store. So be sure to stay tuned for that when that starts up in not too long from now. But failing that, Max, how are you feeling about this championship so far?
Oh, it's so good to see the drivers battling at the sharp end, and when Vakonyi is put under pressure or when he has a poor qualifying, it's nice to see drivers not really cracking under that pressure like we saw from De Vries. We've seen it from Ramsey as well in the past, where they just soak it all up and they're like, no, I'm not bothered that you're the championship leader. I will keep this position. I'll keep fighting. There's no special orders for him. And talking about Vakonyi, I think we can actually get an interview from him here, Ben, so we can get his thoughts on this evening's actions. We will have to switch over to the GRDC commentary chat to do so, but it'll be nice to hear from the championship leader that we only hear from if he has a good evening. If he has a very disappointing one, like we saw in Bahrain and also last time out in Fiji, he just doesn't want to talk to us at all. So it'll be nice to hear a happy Vakonyi in the commentary box.
Well, let's switch over then. Let's get it going. We're just making our way over, and there we are. So let's grab Vakonyi in, and let's see what he has to say.
Hello, Zoltan. Can you hear us?
Good evening, guys. Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, Zoltan. A brilliant performance from you tonight, a second place and a first. How did you find this evening? Was it tough, or was it just how you were expecting?
It was really tough, because before the race, like in 10 minutes, I just realized that's not the default Formula 1 track layout, and I was never driving this layout, so I have 10 minutes for doing a setup work and learning the middle sector, so it was kind of tricky, to be honest. But yeah, it feels okay. I mean, the qualifying was a bit shame from me, because I wasn't expect the tires will come alive in the wet damp track for the second lap, but yeah, everybody was doing the second lap and it was faster, so it's working, and I was not do that, so that was a miscalculation from me, to be honest. And yeah, after that, just a great racing in the first race, and I really enjoyed it, but to be honest, I can do better than this, and yeah, it was impossible to pass Hendrik, so yeah, it was really tricky and really tough, and almost lost. I mean, I lost the car in the last corner once, and when I was a chance in the end of the race, but I was totally full push, so 100%, and yeah, it was over the limit for the car, so it was my mistake. And yeah, after that, just again, the rain hit qualifying. I just do some laps, but bottle it a bit, so yeah, second place, but it was so much better. And yeah, just keep it clean, keep it smooth, or third place, sorry, not second, third place. And yeah, just enjoy the race, and yeah, head up and don't make a mistake like last time. So that's it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a very solid drive indeed. So was that first race really just seeing the track in racing conditions, getting up to speed with things, and using that first race as a build for the second one as more of a get to know the track and not really focus too much on the overall result of things?
To be honest, in my head, there is just only one thing: just don't make any mistake like last round, and just keep focused and just do what I can do with the car. At the moment, I don't have a ballast, so it was so much easier, to be honest. But still, it was kind of surprised me when I was realized, okay, that's not the normal default layout, so that was hard for me, to be honest, with that. But it's okay, it's racing and everything goes smooth, and yeah, I really enjoyed the whole night. I mean, I can say that it was bit boring for the second round because every rival from behind me was crashed out or something happened in the start, I don't know, in the turn 1. And yeah, it was me and just that's it, and nobody was holding my pace, and yeah, it was kind of boring in the end, but I can take it, to be honest. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, you seem to do quite well in these night races compared to everybody else. And what about them do you like the most? Because of course, Portugal, you dominated the field there. I think we had one in Brazil, which you dominated too. Of course, Bahrain, always, usually at night too. And you just seem to extract so much pace from your car compared to other people. So what do you think makes you go so much quicker at night than compared to the other drivers?
I mean, I'm always like the night, so I prefer the night races compared to the sunny daylight races, and I just feeling I'm a night owl, to be honest. So every time when I'm hitting the track in the night, it's much easier for me because I know so many people are hesitating and just how to say that, just they are overthinking because they don't see so much from the track, and I just leave it behind me and just focusing on the apexes and just doing my good pace. Also, okay, but at the same time, it's not just that because the cars are a bit more tricky. I mean, we are losing a bit more traction because of the tire temperature drop down, and also the track temp is drop down a lot. But still, if you can manage these micro slides and yeah, these things, it can be the difference. But most of the time when I was racing, I'm just feeling better in the night sessions. That's why, I guess. That's my honest opinion about that. Nothing magic setup thing or something. I'm using the same.
Fair enough. You just seem to really gel with those night races, and you just don't think about what you're doing. And Ben, do you have any questions for Zoltan?
No real questions really, because you kind of went through in a good amount of detail and kind of answered the things that I would have asked anyway. So the only thing that I wanted to say is, I mean, you've absolutely smashed it in terms of the championship thus far. How are you feeling heading into those sort of last or next few rounds, I should say?
The next one will be Spa, which is my one of the favorite track, but it will be a lot kilogram in my bucket, so I don't know what I can expect because the third and the first sector is just a straight line, to be honest, and it's not helping for me. So I don't expect it. Not, I mean, top 5 is amazing for Spa, probably, but let's see what the race will hold for me and for the rest of the season. I just want to be full focused on just keep it safe, and let's try to go 100% in pace wise, but the 99 is enough, to be honest. So let's hold it back a bit, because yeah, when I feel I can win it, like in the first race, I know I can do that, but still I was do a lot of stupid mistakes, to be honest, in driving wise, and it can be a worse scenario. For example, for the last corner, I can catch the I was catch the car, but if I'm not catch the car and I'm hitting the wall, maybe I will broke my wing and my race is done. So I don't need to do that. So that's maybe for myself, my advice, to be more chilled and more just focusing on the long term of the racing. So yeah, that's it. I can say that, but I don't know what to expect, because there will be another short track layout where at least I'm raced before, the Sebring one. And yeah, it's always a tricky ones, these short track layouts, because there is not many opportunity to overtake, to be honest. And yeah, with the ballast, it's not easy to do perfect qualifying laps. So yeah, let's see what the future holds, to be honest.
Well, either way, mate, I'm looking forward to it, because if your track record's anything to go by, then we're in for a heck of a finale. But that's all from me, and Max, back to you.
Yeah, that's going to be all from me too, Zoltan. So yeah, let's see what the future holds from you. Potentially, could see you back here next week, but of course you're going to have a very, very heavy car indeed, which you're going to have to try and wrestle with. But yeah, good luck next week and for the rest of the season, Zoltan, and hopefully we hear from you soon.
Thank you, and I really hope we will meet again in there. So yeah, let's hope for that. See you guys.
Certainly will. Goodbye, Zoltan. Thank you for joining us. So, Ben, that I think is going to wrap up this evening. Of course, not your first rodeo in the GRDC, but your first one for the LMGT3 challenge. How did you find that?
Yeah, so I found it a lot of fun, and I can see the appeal for this series a lot more now when like being in this side of things. I know I jumped in to help with the production of Race 2 early in the season, like one of the early Race 2s, but seeing it a few rounds in now and seeing the different battles staging up and down the field, I can see why this is a very popular series here at GRDC. So very much looking forward to those future rounds, like we were saying, and looking forward to the rest of what GRDC has to offer in the next coming months.
Yes, we certainly do. So just to reiterate, the end of your season, the calendar that shall remain, of course, Zoltan did slightly spoil the final round of the season for you, but anyway, we knew that. Spa is going to be your next round. That's round 8. That'll be next week. Then the week after, we head to Monza for round 9. And to end off the season, we do head to the national circuit of Sebring on the 11th of August, a trip back to the States. And I think that is going to be all from us here at the LMGT3 Challenge, brought to you by Driven Minds and Driveline Media. Is there anything else you would like to add, Ben, or is that going to be all for this evening?
Well, see you next Monday is all we can really say to that, and see you in the future on Wednesdays when WSC gets underway.
Yes, we certainly shall see you in the future on those Wednesdays. I'll be back next Monday though, so don't go a-changing for that one. You do not want to miss the rest of this season. Going to be a battle all the way to the wire, not only for the championship, because that's still potentially on the cards, but also for that second place spot as well. So make sure you tune into all our other championships, especially on the Wednesday, the World Series as well. But make sure you're back here next week, 8 o'clock. See the action unfold. We'll see you next time, and goodbye.